Anyone else? Any ideas? Okay, so we'll do Sri Sri Chaitanya Prasadena. By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Tat of him, Rupasya, of the form, complete determination, Balaha, Isha, Abhi, even, Gurute, makes, Shastra, the revealed scriptures, Vishwa, having seen, Rajavilasina, who enjoys the pastimes of the person. So, Srila Prabhupada's translation to this verse. By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even a foolish child can fully describe the real nature of Lord Krishna, the enjoyer of the pastimes of Braja, according to the vision of the revealed scriptures. Please repeat. By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even a foolish child can fully describe the real nature of Lord Krishna, the enjoyer of the pastimes of Braja, according to the vision of the revealed scriptures. Srila Prabhupada's purport. One can ascertain the meaning of this Sanskrit shloka only when one is endowed with the causeless mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Sri Krishna, being the absolute personality of Godhead, cannot be exposed to the mundane instruments of vision. He reserves the right not to be exposed by the intellectual feats of non-devotees. Notwithstanding this truth, even a small child can easily understand Lord Sri Krishna and his transcendental pastimes in the land of Vrindavan by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschachadishtane Om Agyanatamirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Shnapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyaham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaisavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragana Tandutam Tang Sajiva Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Malita Shri Vishakandatam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancho Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasana Gauravartana Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So, why is it that Lord Chaitanya can endow even a small child with the capacity to understand Krishna? The answer, quite simply, is because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. He's Krishna himself, so he can give anybody the power to not completely understand himself. Prabhupada would quite often say that even Krishna doesn't completely understand himself, because his potencies keep expanding and then his knowledge potency expands to catch up, and it's an eternal competition in this way. So the reason why it's so important that Prabhupada gave us this Chaitanya Charitamrita is to drive home this specific point. That only by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya can we understand Lord Krishna. Lord Chaitanya, we know that once in the day of Brahma, Lord Krishna appears in his original form. So I am Bhagavan, Krishna. He appears at the end of the Dwapara Yuga, from the 4 Yuga cycles, and as soon as he departs, Lord Chaitanya shortly thereafter comes. Why does this happen? Prabhupada explains that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So when he comes, he orders, Sarvadhamam Pratitya, Mame comes here. He's not asking, he's ordering, surrender to me. Just like a father, after putting up with some nonsense by his 4 or 5-year-old son, will say, okay, stop, do this, don't do that. So Krishna is coming in that role as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Father, and he orders all of us wayward children trying to enjoy his material energy without him, stop, acknowledge my position and your position in relationship to me, and you'll be happy. But Prabhupada said, being foolish, we defy Krishna. Who is this? Why is he ordering? Who does he think he is? We're so crazy in this material world. The Supreme Lord is ordering us for our own good to surrender to him, and we, I'm not into it. So, out of his extreme compassion, he comes back again as Lord Chaitanya to teach us how to surrender to himself. So after Krishna leaves, Krishna Sadamo Pagate Dharma Kyana Navisaha Kalo Nashadushangesha Puran Arka Denodita. That this Srimad Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun, and it has risen just after the departure of the Lord to his own abode, accompanied by religion and everything else that's good. Knowledge, dharma, jnana, religiosity, knowledge, everything that's good leaves when Krishna leaves. So what to do? Purana Arkadan, this Srimad Bhagavatam is that scripture that's supposed to give us the light to guide us out of the darkness of Kali Yuga. But again, we're so unfortunate that even though Srila Vyasadeva compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is supposed to be our guiding light for leaving this miserable material world, still we don't get it. So Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the form of a devotee to guide us how to take shelter of the Srimad Bhagavatam and others to get out of this darkness of Kali Yuga. So when we hear about the life and pastimes, activities of Lord Chaitanya and his associates, this is mercy, nectar, in written form. So Prabhupada, he had given us Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. Just very succinct portion of Lord Chaitanya's activities, specifically his instructions to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. That's the highlight of the Lord Chaitanya in 5 features, teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So he had given us already, but devotees wanted the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Prabhupada had instructed that his Guru Maharaj, who is a Vaikuntha man, came directly from Vaikuntha to this material world to deliver us. He specifically relished reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. His father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, had searched. We're very fortunate. You just go to the bookshop, you can buy Chaitanya Charitamrita, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur could not find a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was searching all over. Finally, he found one copy. He was so happy. And then he started teaching from this great work. So Prabhupada noted that his spiritual master, his Guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, relished reading. It should not be done. No selfies with the deities. Picture you can take of the deities here. Many temples they don't allow. In this temple it's okay, I think, right? You can take a picture of the deities, but no selfies. Don't turn your back to the deities to take pictures, please. Hare Krishna. So, Bhaktisiddhanta had said to his followers, his disciples, that if all the literatures in the world were to disappear, but only Chaitanya Charitamrita remained, there would be no loss. Because everything is contained in this great work, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Prabhupada noted that, and he wanted to Prabhupada's mission was to save the world through his writings, through his books. The 6 Goswamis, they had done, you could say, as we say nowadays, the heavy lifting. Nana Shastra Vicharana Kinapano Sadharma Sangstapako Lokana Mitakarino Chibune Manyo Shanika Radha Krishna Padarvina Bhajana Nandena Matalika Vande Rupa Sanatan Magurigo Shri Jiva Gopalako. That we worship these 6 Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Das Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Jiva Goswami. Why? Because they scrutinizingly studied all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all of us, all human beings. Thus they're honored all over the 3 worlds, and they're worth taking shelter of because they're absorbed in the mood of the gopis and they're engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna, Ki Jai. So the Goswamis already did all of the heavy lifting, all the studying. You don't have to go back and study all the Vedas and Upanishads and all that. It's already done. And their writings have been distilled into Srila Prabhupada's books. How many of you have seen that very nice movie made by Yadavar and Vishaka Mataji called Brilliant as the Sun? Have you seen that? You can find it on YouTube. What they did was, in that short movie, they showed how Prabhupada's book production took place. Prabhupada would sit down with the commentaries of the Goswamis and others, and he would take the original Sanskrit and he would have a dictaphone. And he would translate word by word, give his translation, then he would give his commentary. That was recorded. In those days, it was reel-to-reel tape. We're talking about 60s and early 70s, reel-to-reel tape. And then that tape was sent to somebody who would put it on another tape machine while Prabhupada continued to translate. And that person would have a headphone and listen to Prabhupada, and then they would type what they heard. But we're talking about Western devotees, not even at that point, they were not completely in tune with Prabhupada's accent and way of speaking English, so they made mistakes. So after that was done, the typewritten transcript was given to an editor to go through and correct mistakes. I'll give you one famous example of a mistake that devotees made by listening to Prabhupada. On one morning walk, Prabhupada was walking. This is, I think it was in Los Angeles, yeah. I wasn't there on that morning walk, but Prabhupada was walking and the devotees were coming close to hear Prabhupada speak, because Prabhupada would speak while he was walking along. Sometimes he would stop and speak, and sometimes he would walk along and speak. So the devotees were coming close, and one devotee actually stepped on Prabhupada's heel. And Prabhupada didn't like that. Kept walking, he did it a second time. So Prabhupada said, don't come near. In other words, don't come so close that you step on my feet. But the person who was transcribing that particular tape typed, don't come here. Which is not what Prabhupada said. He wanted his disciples to come here so they could hear him speak, but he didn't want them to come near so they would step on his feet. So that's the kind of mistakes that were made in transcription, because they couldn't hear clearly or they misheard what Prabhupada was saying. So anyway, that was the process. Somebody would transcribe the tape. Tape would be, the transcribed manuscript would be sent for editing, English editing, and then somebody then would take that marked up manuscript and then retype it cleanly, and then it would go back to Prabhupada for checking to see if they actually got everything right, like that. So there was a whole process. You can see in that video. Just search for it on YouTube. If not, I actually have it on a USB stick. I can leave a copy here for you so you can see. But that was the process. However, what happened was Prabhupada got way ahead of the production team. Because eventually what happened was the final clean manuscript was given to a typist, and that typist would type it up. And by that time, we had computerized the production. That's how I got involved. I joined in '73. I was studying civil engineering in New York. I'm walking down the street one day and I see somebody dressed like this fellow here. You see this fellow here with bright saffron cloth, like that. So you imagine 1973 New York, you see somebody like that, it's like, whoa. So my first thought was, this guy is very brave to walk around New York dressed like this. You know, it looked like he's wearing a skirt. No men in New York wore a skirt in those days. And that bright color was okay, because we were all coming out of the hippie movement. Bright colors, no problem with that, but the shape of the cloth and everything was very much, and the shaved head. And so I approached him and had a conversation and just bought one little pamphlet called Krishna Reservoir of Pleasure. I don't know if you have that still here. Yeah. And that one pamphlet is what convinced me to become a Hare Krishna. It's such a powerful little pamphlet. Sometimes it's overlooked, but you sell that on the street to anybody, if they actually read it, it's so powerful. Prabhupada starts out, he says, Krishna, that name is transcendental. Krishna means the highest pleasure. Every one of us is looking for pleasure, but we don't know where to look. Just that first sentence grabbed my attention. Made me want to find out more about what was being spoken out there. So, as he mentioned, that person is now Devamrita Das Swami, but at the time he wasn't even initiated, he was just a bhakta. So this is the potency of Prabhupada's writing. Even an uninitiated devotee, bhakta or bhaktin, can take Prabhupada's books on the street and make devotees. You don't have to be a Swami, you don't have to be a temple president, you don't have to be... None. Anybody can take Prabhupada's books on the street and induce somebody to buy it, and that person will become a devotee. Guaranteed. So, Hare Krishna, Jai, Shishi, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki Jai, Shishi Gonitai Bhagavan ki Jai, Hare Krishna ki Jai, Hari Bol. So, I joined shortly thereafter, and in 1974, one day, Charitamrita, he was still brahmachari at the time, Charitamrita Das brahmachari, came to me and said, would you like to be involved in Prabhupada's book production? I said, of course. So, and then he said, the reason why we asked you is because we're getting ready to computerize the production, and you're one of the few devotees we know that knows anything about computers. And in those days, computers meant mainframe computers. The computers you know nowadays, microcomputers, were not yet invented. So what? I learned to program mainframes, and just about the time we got ready to computerize the book production, they had come out with mini computers. Mini computers now the size of a big refrigerator. So that's what we bought. We bought a mini computer, and I was doing the programming to drive typesetting equipment to get what you see here. So it has to be programmed to make the text number and all of that. So I was doing that programming. So that's what happened. Eventually, we had what's called a redactron machine, where the typist would type it. It was recorded on something that looks like a modern, of course modern, you don't even remember many of you know, cassette player. You know these little cassette tapes they used to put into a cassette player? Yeah, so we were using those to record data. So that data was given to me, and I would program the computer, and then we would put that in a drive, and then we'd drive the typesetting equipment. So Prabhupada got way ahead in his translation. At that time, we were producing maybe one book a month. So, or actually not even that fast, one book every 2 months. And Prabhupada was way ahead in translating. He had gone 17 volumes completed, waiting to be produced. So when Prabhupada came to Los Angeles in 75, one before. So in 74, I joined ISKCON Press. There was no BBT at that time. They had just created the corporation, but we weren't working under that name. We were working under the name ISKCON Press. And so in 75, they decided that all of us in New York who were working on ISKCON Press should be sent to Los Angeles, and we would close down ISKCON Press and now become Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, BBT. So we did that. We all flew out from New York to LA, and we had a whole building there that was a BBT department. And Prabhupada came, and on a morning walk, again, you can read this in the Lilamrita, and the best person to tell you this story would be Rameshwar Das. He was the BBT manager, and he has all the fine details. He's based now in New York, and half the year he lives in Mayapur because he's part of the TOVP planning team. But he usually comes for LA Rath Yatra and for Prabhupada Festival, and he stays with me when he comes. So we always remember the pastimes of being with Prabhupada. So anyway, so Prabhupada on that particular morning walk, he said, I am not encouraged to go on because you're so far behind in production. Okay, Prabhupada will try to catch up. We think we can do, instead of one book every 2 months, maybe we can do 2 books in 1 month. Prabhupada said, no. I want you to do all 17 volumes in 2 months. So they were shocked. You can imagine, to go from 1 book every 2 months to 17 books in 2 months. They were shocked. So Rameshwar made the mistake of saying to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, we think that's impossible. And you all know the famous line. Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. He wasn't angry, he just said it as a matter of fact. Because in other words, if you really want to please your spiritual master, you don't say impossible, you try. At least try. Don't try to brush it off to start with. So Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. So then they realized Prabhupada is serious. So Rameshwar Prabhu and Radhaballabha Prabhu, who was his assistant, second in charge, they came up with a formula, a plan, how to make it happen. And as you know, by now history had happened, but my portion was that I was a brahmachari at the time living in the ashram, and I was the only one who actually knew how to do all the computer work, so I had to adjust my schedule. I would take rest about 10:30 latest, get up about 3, chant half my rounds before Mangal Arati, after Mangal Arati chant the other half of the rounds, and then go straight to work. So, and then that was just my part. And then they sent a team of photographers here to India from America. They came here to go to different holy places and pilgrimage where Lord Chaitanya went and take all these pictures that you see in CC. So that was one aspect. And then we had the artists who were doing the paintings of the pastimes. They had to work like practically 24 hours a day. So it was a huge endeavor, huge endeavor. But Prabhupada had that vision. This is why we owe so much to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was not, and try to understand, Prabhupada was not a young man. He came to America when he was 70 years old in 1966. So by this time, talking 1975, Prabhupada was 79 years old. So, but he had that vision, that drive to accomplish. He knew the importance of Chaitanya Charitamrita, how this book can deliver the whole world. So he wanted that done. He wanted it done, and he pushed us to do it. And yeah, it was a marathon of production under Prabhupada's guidance. But the big benefit for us also was that Prabhupada traveled from temple to temple. He went around the world 12 times. But for this marathon, he sat down in Los Angeles. So for those 2 months, we got to hear Prabhupada give class every day. Which, Prabhupada made almost 5,000 disciples. And many of them, some of them never even met Prabhupada. They got initiated maybe in 75, 76, and Prabhupada left the world in 77. So some of his disciples never even met him in person. I was very fortunate. When I joined in New York in 73, Prabhupada came shortly thereafter. I remember I went one day and there was all this commotion, they're banging and building and painting, and I'm saying, what's happening? Prabhupada is coming, Prabhupada is coming. So I was very fortunate to hear Prabhupada from the very beginning. And then after we went to, and then Prabhupada came other times, a couple of other times I think, before we moved from, that was the famous Henry Street Temple where I joined. So before we left for LA, Prabhupada had come back to Henry Street a couple of times. And certainly in Los Angeles he came frequently. Even before the marathon he came, but during the marathon he was there, and then again he came later on. So please take advantage of this book. Now, one funny aspect of the marathon for me was that if you understand how photo typesetting works, nobody does that anymore. Maybe some remote corner of the planet, somebody's still doing photo typesetting. Nowadays, everything you just type on your computer and send it directly to the printer and like that. That was not the case back then. This photo typesetting equipment used a huge roll of paper in a cassette. So that paper was exposed to light in a closed box, like developing photos in a dark room. And it was printed like that. Now, while the paper was coming through the typesetter, it was going into a take-up cassette. So the take-up cassette was taking all that paper that was coming out to a roll, and then it would then be processed through a processing machine. In essence, it was going through developing chemicals. So the funny thing for me, or it was my good fortune, but whatever went in last came out first. There are different kinds of systems. There's what's called FIFO, first in, first out. That would be like a water pipe. The water that goes into the pipe first comes out the other end first. And then you have LIFO, last in, first out. So that was this cassette. The last piece of paper that went in was the first that came out when it was being processed. So I was actually reading all these chapters of Chaitanya Charitamrita backwards. The paper was coming out and I was eagerly reading everything coming like this. Because we didn't have Chaitanya Charitamrita. Everybody's eagerly waiting. They would ask me, what did you see today? What did you see? So then that long strip of paper that would come out, maybe 20, 25 feet, it would then be cut up into these sections, pasted on what we call flats. And then those flats would be sent to the camera department and they would make negatives from the flats. And then somebody would sit down with some retouching ink and see if there are any spots in the negatives. And then those negatives would be sent to the printer, and the printer would use those negatives to make printing plates. So it was a very involved process. And the printer at the time was in Tennessee. So we're in California, and we have to send those negatives to the printer in Tennessee, and then they set up the printing. And so it was going on, and we were getting regularly the finished volumes. And as one volume was finished, it was rushed back to LA and showed to Prabhupada like that. So it was a very intense marathon. It wasn't a small thing. It was a big achievement driven by Prabhupada's desire and driven by Prabhupada's input, because they still had to go and ask Prabhupada's questions all the time about this and that. So Prabhupada said, yes, I'll make myself available because I want this done. So again, take advantage. We are very happy, those of us who came from my era, to see that books are still being read, because nowadays everybody has a smartphone. You can carry all of these books on your phone. The entire library of Prabhupada's books, plus more, can be carried on your phone. So we're very happy to see that people are still reading physical books, because there's nothing to replace that. I mean, I travel, so I'm also reading on my computer, but there's nothing like sitting down with a book and reading. And of course, besides Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada gave us so much: Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Srimad Bhagavatam that we mentioned in the beginning. So, my godbrother, Druta Karma Prabhu, you may also know as Michael Cremo, Forbidden Archaeology. He's my next door neighbor where I live in Los Angeles. So he came up with a formula many decades ago, how to read Prabhupada's books, because sometimes we don't do it systematically and we get lost. So his idea, and it's a good idea, you read 10 pages of all of the major books per day. So you read 10 pages of Bhagavad Gita, 10 pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10 pages of Nectar of Devotion, 10 pages of CC. At least those 4, if you want to add Krishna book, whatever. So 10 pages a day means that in 30 days, 1 month, you've read 300 pages, a whole book. Right? And if you're reading 4 or 5 different volumes, you can read 5 whole books in a month, just by reading 10 pages a day of each book. So I recommend that. If you're having trouble making a schedule to read Prabhupada's books, then do that. Read 10 pages a day of each of the major books, and in a month you'll be surprised. You've read so much. And it's essential to read Prabhupada's books from cover to cover. In the beginning, I recommend, especially to new devotees, don't try to necessarily understand everything. Just read for information. So read the entire Bhagavatam, read the entire CC, all Bhagavad Gita, and then you go back and systematically try to understand. But in the beginning, just read for information. Just read all the books. Nectar of Devotion, very, very special. And you'll find that, lo and behold, gradually, our enemies, our 6 enemies, lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and madness, right? Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya, these are the 6 enemies. Not the people from the country next door or some country far away, or not your neighbors, not your parents, not your ex-friend from school. No, these are not our enemies. Some business enemy. No, the enemies are inside. Lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and madness. But if we read systematically Prabhupada's books, we'll find that these enemies start to go away. That's what's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Shrivatam Sakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. Hridyantakstam Yabhadrani Vidunoti Suratatam. Because Krishna is in our heart. And when he sees that we are a little serious about hearing about him, which is what we're doing when we read these books, we're hearing about Krishna. Factual information. Not something that somebody dreamt up or, I admit I get a little bit on the case of my Indian brothers and sisters that they're very fond of hearing anybody speaking. Oh, he's such a nice speaker. It's such nice katha. He's doing Bhagavad Sapta. I have to go. He's famous. He's this and that. So I always ask them, who is his guru? Maybe sometimes they can say. And if they can say, who is this big speaker's guru? I said, who is his guru's guru? Pretty soon they can't answer. But from our instructions, from the Goswamis, from Prabhupada, Sampadaya Vininam He, Mantraste Nishpalosmi. If you don't get your information in a proper Sampradaya, Nishpala, you're not going to get any fruit. So we don't want to hear, maybe a very erudite scholar, big speaker, but if it's not connected to one of the 4 Sampradayas, then we know. Our Sampradaya is Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. But there are other bona fide Sampradayas like Sri Sampradaya, Kumar Sampradaya, and coming from Lord Shiva also. 4 bona fide Sampradayas. So anybody who's going to speak Shastra has to be connected to one of those Sampradayas. If they're not, don't hear. That's what Sanatana Goswami said. Avaishnava Mukodkirnam Uttam Harikatamritam Shravanam Naiva Kartavya Sarpochista Yatapaya. He says, don't hear from somebody who is not a Vaishnava. Why? It's Krishna Katha. No, it's compared to milk that's been touched by the lips of a serpent. Sarpochista Yatapaya. It still looks like milk, right? If there's some poison in milk, you can't see it, it looks like milk. But if somebody tells you, no, don't drink it, some snake, then you don't drink it, if you're intelligent. So it's the same. Yes, it may be Shastra, they may be so-called speaking from Srimad Bhagavatam, whatever. But the symptom is there, that those who are not in Sampradaya, they don't want to talk about the 1st canto, or the 2nd canto, or to speak of the 5th canto. They don't want to touch that. They want to go straight to 10th canto. That's the symptom of an Avaishnava. Prabhupada said, my Guru Maharaj spoke for 6 months on the 1st verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai Shri Shri Raghunath Maharaj. This is a real Vaishnava. A real Vaishnava can speak, go on speaking on any verse. The 1st verse of the Bhagavatam. Janmadya Sesa. Anvayatani. Charteshu abhigyaswara tene brahma vridaya. So he spoke on that verse for 6 months. Those were bogus speakers. They don't even touch that verse. They probably never even heard it. They just only speak about the Tetrayant. So we shouldn't fall into that trap. Don't hear from such persons. Hear from Srila Prabhupada. He put his Bhakti Shakti into his books. So if we give Prabhupada submissive oral reception, then we pick up that Shakti. So, thank you very much for your kind attention. I'm not sure, do we have a kirtan now, or maybe you want to leave time for some questions? It's up to you, whatever you like. Yeah? Yeah, if anybody has any questions?
Prabhuji, thank you for the class. Can you please tell how was it meeting Srila Prabhupada? What was your experience like, face to face?
Well, it was obvious from my first meeting, the very first class that I heard him give, that he's not an ordinary person. Definitely not. I was educated materially, and I've been curious about spirituality. On the surface, I realized after meeting Prabhupada, but my friends and I, we used to have deep philosophical discussions about this ism, that ism, Taoism, Taoism, but it was armchair philosophy, as Prabhupada said. Bad habit, you sit down and speak philosophy and then you drink some wine. So Prabhupada was not that kind of philosopher. It was obvious from the very beginning. I didn't have a lot of close association with Prabhupada. Only those who traveled with him, his servants like Shrutakirti, people like that, who traveled with Prabhupada from temple to temple, they got to see and hear Prabhupada on a regular basis, his secretary like that. Personalities like myself, again, I was very fortunate because many of my god brothers and god sisters, they never even got close to Prabhupada. But I heard classes in New York, classes in LA, and classes in Mayapur. As he mentioned, I got my second initiation at the Mayapur Festival in Prabhupada's quarters, 1976. So I was very fortunate. I had a lot of direct association in that way, hearing Prabhupada speak, seeing his demeanor. And because I participated in that 17 volumes in 2 months marathon, all of us who were in that marathon, we got to go on a morning walk with Prabhupada. So on that morning walk, because normally only the inner circle, they got to go with Prabhupada. So on that morning walk, I had the audacity of asking 2 questions. So the first question, this is in the, you can look it up on the database. If you look up, you can find these questions. But I asked Prabhupada one question. I said, Srila Prabhupada, in Christianity, because I was brought up as a Christian, they have this concept of virgin birth. That this Mary, she gave birth to Jesus Christ without being touched by any man. So Prabhupada said, yes, but whenever there's birth, there has to be a father. There has to be a father. A woman cannot give birth to a child without a father. So they may think God is the father directly, not some ordinary man, but there has to be a father. So that was the answer to that question. Okay, so we walked on some more, and then I asked a really foolish question. I said, Srila Prabhupada, in the material world, every one of us, we're thinking we're this body, but inside this body, there's so many other living entities. So many worms and germs and whatnot. They're also thinking they're their body. So inside this body, there's so many other. I asked them, is it like that in the spiritual world? So Prabhupada didn't hear clearly. So he asked, what did he say? And somebody repeated the question, and then Prabhupada just gave very stern one-word answer, no. So then I was smart enough to shut up. Because I had a reputation at that time of asking good questions after classes. Yeah, such a reputation that after just going to the temple for a few times, they said, well, what are you waiting for? You understand the philosophy, why don't you join? So I had that reputation of asking good questions, but Prabhupada put me in my place. No. So that was my exposure to Prabhupada. Mostly from a distance here in classes, but a few times, like when he came to the BBT to inspect, and also in that morning walk, got a little close. Any other questions? You and then there's a gentleman with the glasses there, he's next.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you were mentioning we should read Prabhupada's books from cover to cover. I finished first canto of Bhagavatam, but after the whole verses and purports are over, there is about 100 pages of just glossary and verse references. And I did not read that section thinking that most of the words like Acharya and Bhagavatam, all these word meanings I may know. So I did not read it cover to cover per se. So should I go back and read that completely?
That's why it's there. Yeah, for the first reading, no, you don't have to. But Prabhupada's books are appreciated in scholarly circles specifically because it has all of that information, including a Sanskrit pronunciation guide. So all of those things are not there just accidentally. They're there for us to read. Prabhupada was not fond of, he was very, very happy that we were distributing his books, especially again, by the time that this marathon took place in '75, the book scores were going through the roof, so many books were going out. So one day, Rameshwar Prabhu went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, for the first time at the airport, one of our devotees has distributed 100 books, big books, in one day. And he was expecting Prabhupada to say, Jai, wonderful. But Prabhupada's response was very quiet. He said, but are they reading my books? He said, I made these books for you, my disciples and followers, first and foremost. After you read it, then you distribute. But, some of us were so enthusiastic, we just wanted to distribute without reading. Prabhupada didn't like that. You must read the books. Because if you read the books, again, transformation will take place within your own heart, and then you will automatically want to distribute the books. This is human nature. If you find something that's appealing to you, then you immediately want to share with others. That's human nature. So if we actually read Prabhupada's books and appreciate them, then he doesn't have to force us to distribute them. We automatically want to distribute them because we see the effect that it has on us. And not only just the effect of cleansing the heart, but we relish. We relish. And Prabhupada, where else can you find any Shastra? And this is what you don't get from the Bhagavad Saptaha reciters. You read the chapter of when Jarasandha attacked Mathura and Krishna and Balaram went out. Which other religion you will find where God, the Supreme Being, goes out and kills so many thousands of opponents? Kills them, chops their heads off. Not just kills them, and not just the soldiers, the elephants, the horses. There was such a river of blood coming. That's God. That's Krishna. And the devotees don't find it ghastly. They say, Jai! Don't you? When you read that chapter and you hear that Krishna and Balaram are devastating Jarasandha 17 times, killing so many, Jai! We relish that. Ordinarily, we see a little blood, just like I went out with Krishnamitra, we were on the street. There was a little fender bender, two scooters hit together, and one scooter was a Mataji with 3 children, they fell over, they got some scratches, immediately were horrified. But when Krishna kills and cuts the heads off and the blood is flowing, that's the benefit of hearing about God from the right source. See, somebody who doesn't hear from the right source, they think this is ghastly. What kind of God you're worshiping? I I just came from Chennai, so I showed this on my phone. We have a Utsav Nisringadev in Los Angeles, you can see. So I bought a car from a guy, and we were just chatting, and I told him I'm a spiritual trainer. And then he saw it on my phone. He said, if you're a spiritual trainer, why do you have this demon on your phone? So I said, he's not a demon, he's a demon killer. So if you don't hear from the right source, you can't appreciate Lord Nrsingadev ripping apart Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad even said, Prabhupada even said, look at Prahlad. His father is getting torn apart and he's standing there waiting to garland the killer. How is that? How is that possible? That you can stand there and watch your father get killed and you're waiting to garland the killer? Because Prahlad is a pure devotee. And he knows that everything that his Lord does is beneficial. That's why we say the all good Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not just when he's dancing with the gopis, but when he's killing the demons, it's good for them. And so we say Jai. Okay? But yes, first time through, maybe you skip over the glossary and Sanskrit pronunciation guide. But they're there for a reason. So later on you go back and you try to learn all of those terms. And of course, gradually just by reading the books, you learn a lot. Everybody knows what is the meaning of tat. Tat, the word tat, T-A-T. Tat. That, yes. Api. Yeah. So as you read Prabhupada's books, read the synonyms also. And you'll find that after a few years, if somebody shows you a verse you've never, you can translate it practically. Because you've heard those words over and over and over again. Tattva. What is tattva? Tattva. T-A-T-T-V-A. What does that mean? Tattva means truth, yes. It literally means, in English, thatness. T-A-T, as we said, means that. T-W-A is compared to the English suffix N-E-S-S. So literally in English it means thatness. So what is the thatness of something? It's the truth of something. So tattva is translated as truth. So like that, if you just read Prabhupada's books, read the synonyms, read everything. In the beginning, just read through for information, but then go back and systematically study. And so, I'm getting old now, I'll be 72 in October, but in my prime, in early days as a brahmachari, we used to challenge each other. And nowadays it's not in favor. People don't like to be challenged. But in my day, any senior brahmachari could stop a junior brahmachari and say, okay, you have a few minutes, let us sit down and recite chapter 7, Bhagavad Gita. So you have to know. You have to study Prabhupada's books. And so, like I said, I learned a few shlokas, and devotees would always ask why, or how you know why. Because if you hear Prabhupada give a lecture, every shloka that he uses in that lecture, you should want to learn that shloka. Why not? If you want to be a preacher, Prabhupada wanted all of us to be preachers. So every verse that Prabhupada uses when he's preaching, you want to learn that. And when you read Prabhupada's purpose, every verse that he refers to, you should want to learn that. And in this way, especially when you're a young man, your brain is still ripe to absorb knowledge, that's when you should take to it. Don't wait till you're 65 or tired, okay, now I'll sit down and read Bhagavad Gita. No. You see too many 65-year-olds, they sit down and they watch cricket. They still don't have any time for Bhagavad Gita. So the time is now, when you're young, men and women, make the effort. It takes a little effort. But Krishna's in the heart, as Super Soul, he wants us to have this knowledge. So if we just show a little interest, Krishna will, he says that. Teshamei panakam partam aham agyanam. I seated within the heart will illuminate the torchlight of knowledge, the darkness. 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna wants us to know. He doesn't want to hold us back. But we're the ones that are holding ourselves back. You see? We take one step towards Krishna and 10 steps towards Maya. But Krishna is so kind, you take one step towards him, he will take 10 steps towards you. So we just have to keep going forward. And the success is guaranteed. Okay, maybe one more, this gentleman with the glasses there.
I think you already answered my question. Like my question was, how as disciples of Prabhupada, how we can connect to Prabhupada? And another question was like, how...
Well, let's deal with that one, because it's very important, especially in this city. We belong, as we said, to a sampradaya. Now, sampradaya is sometimes diksha, it's sometimes siksha, sometimes both. So in our case, we got both from Srila Prabhupada. We got diksha initiation from Prabhupada, and we also got instructions. And those instructions don't change with the next generation. They're meant to go on. But Prabhupada indicated that he also wanted the Dikshit to go on. From the very early days, it's history now, everybody knows, there's Kirtananda Swami. While Prabhupada was still here, he wanted to start initiating. And Prabhupada said, no. He said, the etiquette is, while your spiritual master, he said, the etiquette is, while your spiritual master is still present, you bring all prospects to him. But after the spiritual master leaves, then they become your disciple. Prabhupada said that clearly. He never said that I will go on initiating after I leave. He never said that. Don't let anybody fool you about that. Because it's a personal connection. Whether Siksha or Diksha, it's a personal connection. But especially for Diksha. Because Siksha you can learn picking up some book somebody wrote and you get something from it. But Diksha is meant to be a personal connection. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada reminded us many times, used to say that a prospective disciple should study the Guru for at least 6 months and vice versa. And even after studying, the Guru may not accept you. So that personal connection has to be there. If anybody can just call himself a disciple of Prabhupada, where is the opportunity for Prabhupada to say no? It's not that Prabhupada accepted everybody. And not only did he not accept everybody, he even rejected some after they were accepted. There's that famous case in Vrindavan where one of his foolish disciples came to Prabhupada and asked, Prabhupada, may I have your permission to go and take initiation from some Babaji at Radhakund? And Prabhupada said yes. And after he left, Prabhupada said, you're a black snake. He said, just see, the black snake. He rejected him. So it's a personal connection. If it's just by your desire, then where is the personal connection? If anybody could just stand in front of a picture of Prabhupada and give themselves Prabhupada initiation, it doesn't work. And we know the history from Mahabharata, the story of Ekalavya. You see, he wanted to be initiated by Dronacharya. And actually, it was pointed out, he was a better archer than Arjuna. He was so good, just practicing on his own, with his heart fixed on Dronacharya. But Dronacharya did not want to accept it, to the point where he told him to cut off one thumb. See? So that personal connection has to be there. It's not just your desire. Ekalavya had a strong desire. And based on his meditation on Dronacharya, he became such a fantastic archer. You know the episode, Pandavas were out hunting and one of their hunting dogs came back with arrows over his mouth. Ekalavya did that. He was such a fine archer. But Dronacharya did not want to accept him. As much as he wanted to be a disciple of Dronacharya, Dronacharya did not want to accept him. So it's not that because I have a strong desire to be a disciple of such and such person that they will accept me. I give you another example. I spent many years living with Charitamrita Swami. Like I said, we've known each other since the 70s, early 70s. Although he joined way back on the original 26 2nd Avenue, joined straight out of high school. But anyway, there was one young man who really wanted to be initiated by him. We used to live together, so I know the story personally. I was there. And he was asking Maharaj for initiation. Maharaj told him, no. So finally one day Maharaj said, so you accept me as your authority? And he said, yes, Maharaj. You will do what I tell you to do. Yes, Maharaj. I'm telling you, go find another guru. So you see, the guru does not have to accept you just because you want that guru. The personal connection has to be there. Don't let anybody fool you that you can become a proper disciple just by... You can't. You cannot. Not in our line. It doesn't work like that. Our line is a very personal connection. Bhaktisiddhanta wanted to be initiated by Gaura Babaji Maharaj. Maharaj kept telling him, no, I'm going to ask Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and see what he says. And every time Bhaktisiddhanta came back, he said, did you ask Maharaj? Oh, I forgot. He did not want to take any disciples. And then finally, Bhaktisiddhanta told him that if you don't initiate me, I'm going to take my life. He was so serious. And then at that point, Gaura Krishna said, okay. And this is not some guy off the street. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son. Try to understand. So the personal interaction has to be there. And the Guru's decision is final, and it may not always be favorable. He may say no. So when you have this kind of so-called rhythmic initiation, there is no possibility of the Guru saying no. So it's a bogus, at least for our line. Maybe in some other lines they accept that. But in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, that is not accepted. So don't let anybody fool you. Okay? Hare Krishna.
Here's the second question.
Yeah?
Like, in the first question itself, like, I was talking in the sense like how we are the disciples of disciples, how we can connect to Prabhupada. We are already initiated by the disciples of Prabhupada. So
well,
we should have a personal relationship with Prabhupada also.
That is the duty of your Guru. Like our connection to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is through Prabhupada. Before Prabhupada came to the West, there were many, many editions of Bhagavad Gita in English. Like I said, I was part of a group of young men who would like to go to esoteric bookstores and just read all of these esoteric books. But we were not becoming followers of Krishna or anybody. Just fooling ourselves that we were very intellectual. So Prabhupada connected us to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and Prabhupada's disciples are supposed to connect you to him through his shiksha, through his books. So this is how you test. Prabhupada has given everything in his books, and lectures, morning walks, personal conversations, darshans, it's all there. Not everything was supposed to come out, by the way. Prabhupada, because Prabhupada said some very strong things that were not necessarily meant to be shared with everyone. It was particular time, place, and circumstance. But it's already done now. Some foolish disciples decided, no, whatever Prabhupada says should be shared with everybody. If you read Krishna's 64 qualities, the second verse says, Vidagda Chatarastaksha Kritakya Sujada Prata Desha Kala Supatragya. So that Desha Kala Supatragya, Krishna sets the example. He knows how to deal with everyone according to time, place, and circumstance. So the pure devotees also know that. They don't always give the same answer. And this is why you have to have a personal guru. I'll give you an example of this. One of my godbrothers who became famous as a musician within ISKCON, but he was already a musician when he joined. So he went to Prabhupada and he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I'm a musician. I would like to glorify Krishna through songs and playing my guitar and all that. Prabhupada said, yes, you can do that. So one other devotee, disciple of Prabhupada, who was also a musician, he heard that. So he went to Prabhupada because he thought if this godbrother got permission, I can also. So he went to Prabhupada and explained, I'm also a musician, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, no. Time, place, and circumstance, and the individual that you're dealing with. So the answer the Guru gives may not be the same for everybody. That's why the personal connection, personal guide is required. You're not going to get that if you self-initiate. You need to have a personal guide. And if somebody said, well, I don't think what? Prabhupada made almost 5,000 disciples that are documented, could be more. For the centennial, my god sister Mahamaya, Devi Dasi, she did all the research. And she documented 4,900 and something disciples that Prabhupada made. There may have been some that were missed, but at least those were documented. So are you trying to tell me that out of almost 5,000 disciples that Prabhupada made, that none of them are qualified to take disciples, to connect others to Prabhupada? Then you're calling Prabhupada's mission a failure. We're saying that Prabhupada's mission was a failure, which I don't think. I don't know all of my godbrothers and godsisters, but of the ones that I know, I am quite sure they're qualified. Some of them are qualified to carry on Prabhupada's mission. to initiate and guide new people going forward. I have no doubt about that. Somebody else can doubt, that's their experience or they have the right to do that. But in my experience, Prabhupada did make qualified individuals to initiate and carry on this line. It's okay? Any of the Matasis? All the Prabhujis are asking questions. Any of the Matasis have any questions? Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention. I think I'm giving class tomorrow morning, yes? And then, is it tomorrow morning or the next morning? I forget. Friday. Okay, so tomorrow morning not, because tomorrow morning we'll go, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Arcita Prabhu, for coming here and enlightening us, sharing your wonderful memories, Prabhupada, and advancing in helping us in advancing Krishna consciousness. So let us chant big Hare Krishna to Arcita Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So he is giving Bhagavan class on 15th morning on Adu or Dhruva from Goswami. I mean the topics spiritualist taking shelter of Guru.
Spiritual life begins by taking shelter of bona fide spiritual master.
Thank you, Prabhu. So don't miss this.